Good morning, everybody. Good morning, and thank you so much to everyone for your patience this morning. We are going to begin. My name is Ribeiro-Addy. I chair the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Afrikan Reparations. Our secretariats are the Stop the Mangamizi campaign and Afford, and we have organised this conference today. But in spirit of our traditions, we will begin with a libation before the formal welcomes, and I'm calling on Kojo Asare Bonsu from the Global African People's Parliament to lead us.
Grand rising, ancestral greetings, and welcome to everyone here today. But the greatest welcome is reserved for those whose shoulders we're still standing on, whose footsteps we're still walking in, who's shielding and surrounding us, and these are our great and esteemed ancestors. So I'll go through the ritual of acknowledging them, inviting them, and invoking their presence. Here, and a sound to my right, and the ancestors, they function on all that is vibration. Creator Father, Divine Mother, Father Heaven, Mother Earth, the energy, forces, and power of the universe, the cosmos, and the heavenly constellation. The elements of Father Heaven, earth, wind, fire, and water. The rich, bountiful, life-sustaining resources of Mama Earth, even the bugabug. Known by many names, called by many names. The great Kushite, Kemite, Nubian, Akibulanite, Afurakan, Kemetiu, Kemetian, Afurakan, Supreme Being Life Source, Supreme Being Life Force, Supreme Being Life Energy, Supreme Being Life Creator, Supreme Being Life Giver, and Supreme Being Life Sustainer. Behold, a source, a force, and an energy that is greater than us, but dwells within us, and is shown and is expressed from and through us and fills us up. The great Kushite, Kemite, Nubian, Akibulanite, Afurakan, Kemetiu, Kemeti, and Afurakan ancestors, and ancestral spirits of the universe, the cosmos, and the heavenly constellation. I give thanks for this another day of variation, a new dawning of a new day of variation with all its opportunities, its challenges, its successes, its blessings, and even its surprises. We give thanks for this another day that, oh great ancestors, you would have on the energy of Kafra caused us to rise, to see the glory of Ra, and to be afforded the protection of Amun towards sovereignty, autonomy, and destiny. We give thanks that at this time and in this time, you've equipped us, you've enabled us, you've empowered us, that which causes us to be able to cope with and to deal with life's changing situations, circumstances, events, and demands. We give thanks for this day. We give thanks that you have caused us to be uplifted. We give thanks, O great ancestors, that we represent you in this time, the full and the sum total of who you are, we are. Because of you, we are. We give thanks, O great ancestors, for your peace. Peace of spirit, body, and mind. Protection of spirit, body, and mind. Provision for and of spirit, body, and mind. And repairing, healing, and restoring daily of spirit, body, and mind. All because you've upheld the waters of the rivers of our lives, and you've joined it with the great waters and the great rivers of the world out there, especially the River Happy, Congo, Niger, Zambezi, Musitunia, and Orange. And in spite of the obstacles and the objections, the harassments, the intimidation, the victimization, and all that is negative outside of the spirit of Mahat, you have protected us. So we call upon the names of Dottie Bookman. We call upon the name of Dottie Bookman and Fatima. We call upon the name of Yasantawa, Nzinga, Campavera, our scholars, our active warriors who have transcended before us. And as we go into this day of activity, we are mindful that it is you, O ancestors, who will guide, direct, and will speak. Speak as we open our hearts, our minds, and our ears to do that which is right. We give thanks. Amun Ra and Ashe. We continue to offer, to support, and to give veneration and deification to you, O great ancestors. Through this, your drink, Apateshi. We pour this drink offering, we offer this drink offering, we pour libation. Trade and Ponkwame insa, BBBB. Osoro in Asasaya insa. Nananum and Samanfo. We give thanks for your presence, your power, and your purpose. Amun Ra.
Thank you very much. And as I go over some housekeeping, can I ask my first panel who are doing the welcome messages to come up onto the stage, and any other speakers that are in the back room can take their seats now that the libation is finished. Just to let you all know, there are no scheduled fire alarms today. If you do hear a fire alarm, it is the real thing. There are many, many exits to this building, so please proceed to the nearest one. As you would have seen on each of your speaker passes, there is a lunch token. This is what you must use when we go to lunch, eventually at 1:30 today, and it is to be redeemed in a single transaction. Other than that, we are asking that everybody please do keep their passes around their necks. You'd be surprised at how vile some people are, and for that reason, we have a situation where people have made some unpleasant comments. For security reasons, we're asking that everybody do keep their passes on for the duration of the conference to ensure that they're allowed to access every single room. Thank you very much. And a good morning to you all again. A special welcome back to those of you that are coming to this conference again. We are now on our third annual UK Reparations Conference, and it is a huge honour for me to open this gathering. Thank you. And to stand alongside so many people, campaigners, scholars, community leaders, and allies. The growth in the global reparations movement isn't accidental. It reflects something that we can all feel, and that is that the demand for repair is not a fringe issue. It's a moral and political necessity. So we gather here today with one clear purpose: to demand repair. Because for too long, this country, our country, has spoken of freedom without acknowledging who paid the price for it. And Britain has celebrated its democratic traditions, its industrial achievements, its empire, but has never apologised for, nor meaningfully addressed the crimes of enslavement and colonialism that built its wealth. Our country has not apologised, it has not repaired, it has not made amends, but the tide is turning and the truth is too urgent to ignore, and Britain cannot pretend that it is exempt from it. The struggle for reparations did not begin a few years ago, and it didn't begin in any of our lifetimes. It's part of a long continuum of resistance from the first rebellions of enslaved Africans to the revolts and uprisings that forced the world to confront its hypocrisy and trashed that economic model. Those who were enslaved did not wait for freedom to be granted, they fought for it constantly. Yet even when the system of enslavement was finally abolished, freedom wasn't delivered on their terms. It came on the terms of those who had enslaved them. The enslavers were compensated handsomely. Many of you paid towards that. They were compensated for their loss of so-called property. The people who had endured for generations forced labour and brutality received nothing. And then to add insult to injury, their names were erased from the story of their own liberation, and their descendants still live with that erasure today. The denial of justice continued through the creation of colonies, through the carving up of Africa at the Berlin Conference, and through the deliberate drawing up of borders that served European powers rather than African peoples, and the like in the Caribbean, South America, and Asia. And when independence finally came to these countries, it was too constrained, defined by conditions set elsewhere in the interests of others, again posed as gifts given by former colonial masters. So we have to be clear. It would be a profound disservice to those who endured the greatest crimes in human history if reparations were now to be carried out on anyone else's terms but the terms of their descendants. So we are here to ensure that we carry on with that truly global and Pan-African discussion, and that whilst it's debated between governments and discussed at NGOs and examined by international institutions, that the voices of the grassroots movements are not pushed aside. Because this movement wasn't born in boardrooms or ministries, it was born in struggle, in families, in communities, in campaigns that refused to let this history be forgotten. The push for reparations in Britain has very, very deep roots. The All-Party Parliamentary Group for Afrikan Reparations was established to carry that work into Parliament, and in doing so, we stand proudly on the shoulders of those who came before us, like the late, great Bernie Grant, who was one of the first to speak in the House of Commons about reparations. He founded the UK's reparations movement at a time when few wanted to hear it, and he insisted that Britain has to acknowledge its prosperity was built on the backs of the enslaved, and that justice required something more than remembrance, it required repair. That legacy continues in the work of the APPG today, and that legacy continues in the APPG today as we push towards and observe the call of the Stop the Mangamizi campaign to push for an all-party parliamentary group for truth and reparatory justice. Because without truth, there can be no justice, and without justice, there can be no healing, and that truth has to be a framework for repair. So we aim not to just investigate the past, but actually to understand how the legacy of that past shapes the inequalities of the present, and to ensure that reparative justice is not seen as us placing guilt on others, but that it is seen as it's truly meant to be, accountability. And it's about acknowledging that these patterns didn't emerge by accident, they were designed, these inequalities were designed, and they persist because they were never, ever addressed. In other words, Britain cannot continue to pretend that it is somehow above it. Especially when every major institution in our country, from banks to universities, from monarchy to museums, carries traces of wealth extracted through human suffering. The evidence is in the ledgers, the archives, and the very foundations of our national institutions. And that history does not belong in the footnotes, it belongs in the policies that we make today. And as the call for reparations gains momentum, we must ensure, again, and I say again, that international interests do not once again override the interests of peoples of African descent. We must ensure that reparations are not dictated by the same systems that caused harm. And we must remember that we do not need permission to demand justice. The call for reparations is grounded in international law and human rights, and in the simple moral truth that those who have benefited from crimes against humanity have a duty to repair the damage that is done. Now, all of us here will not always agree on the precise pathway forward, and that's okay. There will be debate on a range of different things, from strategy about what constitutes repair, and I think that debate is healthy. I think it reflects diversity of thought and experience. But what we must be united in is our purpose, to achieve truth and justice and meaningful repair for people of African heritage, both here and across the world. And if we're serious, and if our country is serious about equality, we have to be serious about these reparations. And if we're serious about justice, we have to be honest about history and be clear that it's not an act of division, it's an act of healing. The call for reparations has survived for centuries because it speaks to something deeper than politics. It speaks to universal human need for recognition and justice. It speaks to the possibility of renewal. So as we open this third annual conference, I want us to reaffirm what this moment is about. It's about ensuring that the voices of the grassroots lead the way, that reparations are shaped by those who have lived with the consequences of injustice, and that Britain finally moves from just words to actions. And it has to move towards attempting to transform centuries of resistance into policy, to turn the moral argument into political action. I believe that we owe that to the ancestors who fought for freedom, we owe it to the generations who live with the consequences of injustice, and we owe it to the future, which deserves a world that is built on truth and repair. So, again, I'm asking us to commit to this one thing, that the conversations about repair, about reparations, will not be led by those who created the harm, but by those who still live with its impacts. And if we do that, then we know that we have actually got to a point of repair. So thank you, everybody, for being here today. And please do, I wouldn't like to say enjoy, because you will hear some things today that will upset you, but please understand that this conference is for you, those who truly believe that we have to move forward in the fight for reparations. Thank you very much. Now, this is, as I said, our third annual conference, and every year we very heavily depend on organisations to support us to be able to put it on. So for those of you that think that Parliament pays for this is absolutely not the truth. And we're really pleased to be supported by a number of different organisations who I'm going to ask to come up today to give a welcome message. And the key one of these is actually the Quakers in Britain. They give us this building, give us free reign of this building for the entire day. And I'm really pleased to welcome Debby, Flack.
My name is Debby Flack, and I am a Quaker, and on behalf of Quakers in Britain, I welcome you all to Friends House. It is wonderful to gather with you. I hope we'll all be energised, inspired, and feel upheld as we meet together today. I'm a member of the Quaker Reparations Working Group. The reparation journey is a deeply personal one for me. My body bears the imprint of my ancestors, trafficked across the Atlantic and forced to labour and endure inhumane hardship to produce sugar in plantations in Jamaica. 70% of my ancestral genes are linked to Nigeria, the Ivory Coast, Ghana, Benin, Togo and Mali, with 13% being linked to Scotland. This history is my history. My parents are part of the Windrush generation. And as the song goes, it's a hard road to travel and a rough, rough way to go. But I can't turn back. My heart is fixed. My mind's made up. I'll never stop. My faith will see me through. The Quaker reparation journey began in 2022 with the commitment to embark on this work. It is momentous and it's huge to be on this journey, and it's also very humbling. It's special that it gives us the privilege to work with the APPG, this being the third time that we've gathered at Friends House. We know that whatever the Quaker Reparation Group presents because of this journey will have to be accepted by the whole Quaker community. We have much work to do to bring the rest of the Quaker community to the point where they accept the moral and justice-based case for reparation, and this is a significant part of our work. Telling the truth about Quaker history is vital. It is not the simple history that Quakers were abolitionists. This is not the whole truth. We need to find and listen to those voices, to the voices of those who suffered and whose voices were not heard, and those who continue to suffer because of this history. Quakers were directly and indirectly involved in the harms of enslavement and trafficking. We're examining how our theology was used to justify this enslavement and what Quaker theology now says about liberation. We know that reparation will require acknowledgement, an apology, a promise of non-repetition, as well as financial transfer. Work of the heart will also be needed to repair and build relationships based on the understanding of the past and the present. The principles on which this is done are important. I look forward to our learning and sharing today and welcome you all again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Debbie. I'm next going to call on Brian Royce from the Repair Campaign.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Brian Royce. I am a Jamaican reparations advocate who's traveled all the way from Kingston to be with you here today. Thank you very much. I want to begin by saying what a privilege it is to have the chance to be here with you on behalf of the Repair Campaign and to be a part of this conversation, building solidarity for the reparations movement. I'll keep my remarks brief. Over the next few minutes, I want to accomplish two things. First, I want to share with you my perspective on the reparations movement as a young Jamaican advocate who has traveled the region participating in research on reparations. And secondly, I want to extend an ask of everyone in the room, which is fellow advocates of repair who are gathered here, to connect with me and my team to learn more about how we can stand together in solidarity and connect with the work that is being done here in the UK. The overarching message that I want to bring today is very simple. As MP Bell Ribeiro-Addy said earlier, it's unity, solidarity. The time for repair is almost here. And to bring about the change that we want to see, we must stand together in unity in this call for an apology and repair. So, very briefly, over the past year, as campaign manager of the Repair Campaign, I've had the privilege of traveling to 11 Caribbean countries to meet with national reparations committees and members of wider communities to discuss what their vision of repair actually looks like. It's been a really fascinating experience. This was part of an ongoing research effort informed by the CARICOM Reparations Commission starting in 2022, which saw teams of researchers from the University of the West Indies canvassing civil society through focus groups and interviews with marginalized groups, affected communities, members of government and the private sector too, asking them, how does the legacy of chattel slavery continue to affect you today? And if you had a reparatory justice fund that could be applied to make a transformative difference in your life and the lives of your future generations, what would you like it to be applied to? And overwhelmingly, the themes which came up in every single country include a call for accountability, healing, and self-determination, with African and Caribbean value systems and identity at the heart of it all. This effort has led to the creation of 15 country-specific socioeconomic reparatory justice plans. I know that's a mouthful, but for each CARICOM member state, guided by the CARICOM 10-point plan for reparations, which outline priority intervention projects which reparations can and should address. And this work is ongoing and nearing completion. And we believe that this effort will support the delivery of tangible, meaningful, long-term repair. So some of the priority projects identified include, revamping education systems to include Afrocentric values, supporting failing healthcare facilities in the Caribbean, memorialization projects, infrastructure, technology, much more, guided by the 10-point plan, of course. But I'd actually love to share with you some direct quotes from our field research about why repair is important to Caribbean people. And these come from focus group interviews done in Jamaica specifically. One young man said, one of the biggest ones for me is just the structural discrimination that we see in our society, which is a direct result of the racism, the colorism, the different kinds of prejudice that were institutionalized through slavery and that we still see today. Another young man said, we still in a primarily Eurocentric education system. A lot of what our children are taught were curricula developed by people who wanted to keep an entire nation enslaved. Another young woman said, the psyche of the country and the people, our relationships with one another, the levels of violence that we're tolerating because we've become accustomed to certain kinds of violence, and the mental illness. We can't quantify the effects of slavery. Like, you can't because you're putting a monetary figure on it. How do you account for the mental, psychological, emotional trauma, genocides that took place, and all that was lost? So a form of apology needs to be issued to accompany the financial obligations as well. A member of Jamaica's indigenous community, last one, said, some might say, don't make no sense. An apology doesn't matter. It's not material. But I think an apology is something that definitely goes to the core of acknowledgement. You have to be able to acknowledge and accept responsibility and wrongdoing to be able to properly, meaningfully repair and atone. End quote. These are just a few of the points raised from the fieldwork done in each of the 15 CARICOM member states. And while these plans are in the final stage of review with national reparations committees and commissions, I believe that these Caribbean perspectives and voices are vital in this conversation on reparatory justice, even as it plays out in the United Kingdom and across Europe and globally. In seeking justice for the atrocities committed in the Caribbean and during chattel slavery over 350 years and their ongoing impacts, this is why repair matters. And this is why I'm here today, to represent some of these Caribbean voices, yes, but also to connect with you, everyone in the room here today, the champions on the front lines who have been engaged on this side of the Atlantic, in this movement for a long time. And I would love to extend an open invitation for you to connect with us, community organizers, Black history educators, activists, and allies in the room. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to get to know you, because I would love to know from a Jamaican perspective, what does community organizing in the UK look like in 2025? And we'd love to know how we can partner with you in this growing the momentum for the solidarity to make us stronger than ever before. So if that's you, I'd love to connect more. Come talk to us, please. We have a booth outside. Join us in a breakout room in the first session for an engaging mock debate led by myself and my colleague Kane Kawasaki on how to navigate this conversation on Caribbean reparations. And lastly, we're asking everyone who supports the call for an apology and repair to sign in solidarity. We are quantifying the movement across the Caribbean and the world for those who stand in solidarity with reparations. And if that's you, your signature and name goes a long way. And I'd also just shine some light on the APPG's petition as well, which is on the QR code on the back of your program. Please scan and sign, because we need to take action and come together in solidarity. So again, in conclusion, it's really a privilege to be here. And I'm looking forward to hearing the discussions which will follow. Let's talk, let's connect, stand together in unity and solidarity. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Brian. I know some people had some long journeys today, but you ultimately had the longest. Next, I'm going to call on Daniel Noruwa, who is the Research and Policy Lead from the Ubele Initiative.
Morning, all. Oh, come on. That's more like it. My name is Daniel Noruwa. I'm the Research and Policy Lead at the Ubele Initiative, which is best described as an infrastructure plus organization focused on empowering Black and racially minoritized communities to act as catalysts for social change. So I believe that at the heart of the reparations discourse is a question about how we redistribute wealth in all its forms to ensure that the people who have suffered from harm and continue to do so are adequately compensated. As Bell mentioned earlier, in 1833, the British government actually answered this question, not for slaves, but for slave owners following the abolition of slavery. This was a figure of 20 million paid to these slave owners, which is worth 2.4 billion today. And was only fully paid off by the public in 2015. Today, a sum of that figure could transform outcomes for underserved communities. For example, the current budget for homelessness prevention, which disproportionately affects Black and minoritized people, is 700 million a year. Yet homelessness is at its highest level since on record. And if 2.4 billion was distributed to this, it could dramatically change outcomes. Northern England has been crying out for serious transport infrastructure. 2.4 billion can make Northern powerhouse, particularly for Black and brown people who are more likely to use public transport, a reality. However, as we all know, the state is not what it once was. The Office for Budget Responsibility has repeatedly said that public finances are on the knife edge. Among 36 advanced economies, the UK has the 6th highest debt burden, and the Treasury is constantly told it must either cut spending on vital public services that have been cut for 15 years plus, or raise taxes at a point where we have our highest tax burden since 1948. Even if taxes were raised, the UK's public infrastructure has been weakened so much that it's hard to imagine how it will deliver the services that it needs to really address inequality. So amidst a fragile public purse, a weak state that can no longer has the infrastructure to deliver its services, and limited political will to raise taxes, how can we ever get to a place where our communities receive the compensation needed to address long-standing discrepancies and thrive? Well, let me introduce you to community wealth building, a newish economic model focused on building wealth by retaining existing resources and redistributing it so it benefits local people via anchor institutions. Some of you might have heard of this term before. There are examples like Preston, up in Lancashire, which focuses on local procurement. There was Cleveland in the United States, and there were many cooperatives in Birmingham. But there's this amazing place in Wood Green called Wolves Lane Centre, where you really see this model come to life in a way that is independent from the inconsistencies of the state. The story of Wolves Lane is fascinating because before Ubele came, it was largely derelict, underused, and overgrown, and prime for demolition to make way for luxury housing. But since 2018, it has been reused for a range of purposes. At Wolves Lane, where the Ubele initiative is based, we have developed a national program called Ibero 2100, focusing on reinvestment into over 130 Black and racially member organizations, delivering the services that the public state has rolled back from, connecting them with leadership training, flexible finance programs, and powerful stakeholders. We have collaborated with community organizations and a local council to create Eat With Green, supporting people to plant, grow, and encourage healthy eating. And we've spearheaded GIDA, a community-led housing initiative at the heart of Tottenham, which, when built, will provide affordable housing in a city where this is increasingly scarce. This has all occurred across the areas of austerity, COVID, Brexit, and funding cuts. So what does reparations look like today? To me, as evidenced by Ubele, it's about three things. One, utilizing existing infrastructure. Two, seeking investment from existing pockets of wealth which are not being used in the best way. And three, reinvesting it into projects that tackle racial inequality at its core. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel, and for the Ubele Initiative's support. Next, I'm going to ask Eleanor Shearer, who's the policy lead for Commonwealth.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's such a privilege to be sharing this space with you today. My name's Eleanor Shearer. I'm a senior research fellow at Commonwealth. Slightly confusingly named, we're nothing to do with the Commonwealth. It's common space wealth, as in wealth should be held in common. So we are a transatlantic think tank, and we're focused on reimagining ownership from something that is extractive and works for a very few to something that is communal, democratic, and works for everyone. Our work touches on so many aspects of economic systems, from energy and climate, privatised utilities, militarisation, AI, corporate power, tax justice. But what was missing from our analysis and our work until quite recently was, as there is from a lot of work of other progressive research and advocacy organisations, is a recognition of the historical origins and colonial origins of these economic systems that we're studying, and a reparative justice lens to how we move forward. I joined Commonwealth about 1.5 years ago. My background is both academically in reparations, but also personally as someone with Afro-Caribbean heritage. This is an important subject to me, so I wanted to bring that focus into our work. We've started research in this area. Please do come to the stall that we have outside by the front desk and reception to learn more about our forthcoming publication in December, Visualising Extractive Capitalism in the Caribbean, where we're going to have an interactive map and tool that tells the story of Barbados and the broader Caribbean and the evolution of extractive capitalism from the plantation economy right up to the present day. And then over the next year, we're looking at doing this convening and coalition building work with other research organisations, funders, making them also see the links between their work and ongoing colonial structures. But the reason that we're here today is because it's not our place as Commonwealth to be prescriptive about what reparative justice looks like. It's not our place to be starting this research from scratch, as if there hasn't been a huge amount of work, as Bella mentioned in her introduction already, and it's not our place to not be deeply rooted in the incredible existing efforts of activists and scholars in this space. So as this project is in its very early phases, we wanted to be here, we wanted to have our stall, we want people to be able to come and speak to us because we want to open this dialogue, we want to listen and to learn about what it would look like for us to work in a participatory way. I'm very grateful to early conversations that we've already been able to have with activists and scholars. They've really made us see that whilst it's absolutely true, there are organisations like us that we want to bring into the movement, we want to make them understand, we want to correct those blind spots. that will look like working differently. It won't just look like publishing a new report with a different focus. It will look like deep participation with communities. So please do come and speak to me or get in touch with us or look at our website at any point today or in the future, especially if you work on the Caribbean, and especially if you also feel this need for a better linking of progressive economic or climate or debt justice campaigning with reparations and reparations activism, and you've got ideas of what could be done differently to bring people into this movement, to put communities at the centre of it, and ultimately to find that way forward to reimagine the economic systems that are harming us all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eleanor. And I almost completely forgot that Brian has some competition in terms of who came the furthest today. Robin Rue Simmons, who is the executive coordinator of the Global Circle for Reparations and Healing, has also travelled from the US, I believe, and she'll be speaking to us now. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I traveled from the U.S. and I literally just came from the airport. So. Good morning, dear partners, and greetings in the spirit of repair, justice, and healing. My name is Robin Rue Simmons. I'm the co-convener of the Global Circle for Reparations and Healing. It is truly an honor to be with you today. I want to begin with thanking the All-American Parliamentary Group for Afrikan Reparations, not only for this invitation, but for your visionary leadership in creating space for serious dialogue, shared strategy, and collective power. You are vital leaders in this movement, and we recognize and value the work that you are doing on behalf of our people. Thank you. This gathering is more than a meeting. It is a collective voice declaring that our time for repair is not someday, but it is now. I want to offer a warm, heartfelt greeting to our Accra Summit family. Who here is from the Accra Summit? Yes, happy that you're here. Those who joined us in Ghana for Accra 2 Summit Centering Healing. The relationships built there were not transactional. They are transformative. We are here to build on that collective commitment to advance a global reparations agenda that includes the entire African world. And today, I'm proud to be here alongside the Global Circle's executive coordinator, Dr. Bougre, a brilliant strategist, compassionate leader who has been instrumental in us operationalizing our vision. Today, we're not here as participants, we're here as your partner. I also bring you greetings from Evanston, Illinois in the United States. That is where I led the passing of the first municipal tax-funded reparations initiative. Our city moved beyond apology and into implementation. We're currently dispersing reparations in the form of cash benefits and other reparative programs. We've secured our first $20 million. The local model has inspired over 100 localities, those that I have personally visited in the U.S. Evanston has taught us that repair is possible when we act together. Our North Star is a federal and a global response for repair. Local innovation informing global strategy is exactly why we're here today, to share, but more importantly for us at the Global Circle, to learn from proven models in the UK and to synchronize our efforts across global Africa. The Global Circle for Reparations and Healing is a collective of movement practitioners, healers, scholars, policymakers, activists, artists, economists, legal experts, and community leaders from across continents who have come together with a singular mission: to build a global, coordinated, strategic movement that advances reparations and healing for people of African descent everywhere. We are not just aligned in principle, but aligned in practice. We believe our struggles are connected, our histories are intertwined, and our healing must be shared. Unity is not emotional, it must be operational. Our operational unity is not optional, it is key. I will repeat, it is key to our repair and power and our healing. To move the mission forward, the Global Circle is organized into 6 strategic working groups and addressing a critical pillar of the global reparations ecosystem. Global institutions, structures, and economic policy, political actors and power dynamics, which is led by Dr. Bougre along with Dr. Ron Daniels, media and narrative building, partnerships and movement building, in which I lead, inter-religious actors, and intra-community healing, which really is leading our organization right now. We are building a table where every region, every discipline, and every generation contributes to a global blueprint for repair. You are all invited. Thank you again to the organizers. We look forward to deepening our partnership and building collective power. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robin, and for travelling all the way to be here. Now, last but not least, we have Jackie McKenzie, who's a partner at Leigh. Somebody else was sat there before, so I got very confused and thought you were sat next to me, but you weren't. Thank you very much, Jackie.
Thank you, Chair. Esteemed panelists, brothers and sisters, greetings all. Thank you. I would like to open by paying tribute to the ancestors who were subjected to the brutality and inhumanity of the operations to kidnap Africans and enslave them in foreign lands for profit. Many succumbed, and many formed part of a stoic resistance so that you and I could live. We honor them and we remember them today. I had crossed the line, I was free, but there was no one to welcome me to the land of freedom. I was a stranger in a strange land, said Harriet Tubman. 500 years after the start of the transatlantic slave trade, as people of African heritage, no one has welcomed us to the land of freedom. And many of us remain a stranger in a strange land, both for real and metaphorically. I would also like to pay tribute to Belle Ribeiro-Addy MP and her colleagues in the All-Party Parliamentary Group, on reparations, who enable us to meet, to break bread, to think, and to devise strategies to achieve repair, justice, healing, equity, and development. I'd also like us to remember the late Bernie Grant MP, who brought reparations to the forefront in Parliament and into the community. And I'd also like us to remember the work and honor the work of the Rastafari in making sure that reparations remained on the agenda. Arguably, this conference is one of the most important events on reparations to be held annually in the UK and possibly globally. And I say this with some confidence, having scanned the developments around the country, having attended reparation events in Europe, Africa, and the Caribbean since our last conference, and being connected to many of those working in some way or the other on reparations. And forgive me about the US, because I really haven't attended anything there. So when I say globally, it may be that there's much going on there. And it is my perception that the APPG on Reparations Conference is fundamental in that it brings together key practitioners and campaigners, highlighting some of the most pertinent topics and conversations. But it begs the question, what happens between these conferences? Now, this conference isn't the only one to suffer this in my mind. There are many conferences that meet annually, prepare declarations, but we don't hear at the next one what has been achieved in the intervening years. It is important that we meet. It is crucial that those of us concerned with this issue know each other. But we are in incredibly dangerous times. The right, fascism, and Nazism is on the rise. We have a Labour government who many would have expected to at least provide a listening ear on the call for reparations has left us wanting, and I don't want to be too partisan because I don't think any of the other parties are any better, perhaps some exceptions. But who would trust a government that every Monday morning is pandering to the right, is led by a man totally unashamed to mimic Enoch Powell, and who remained silent when tens of thousands of racists and Nazis took to London streets in close proximity to many of our homes and chanted for our exclusion from the UK, and in some cases for our death. So if reparations is within the gift of a state, we don't have a state, and we don't see anywhere on the horizon a government likely to enter even the slightest of notion about paying reparations. So what is really happening in the reparations space? And what can we do to support conference and support and propel what is probably one of the most important struggles of African and Caribbean heritage people in their countries and in the diaspora after the struggles for freedom from enslavement and colonialism? So what is happening is a range of initiatives. Some of these initiatives are led by organizations, and some by individuals, and some by countries. We have the AU and CARICOM with their conferences and plans. Many of us gathered in Ghana in 2023 and signed a powerful declaration about reparations, but we've heard nothing since. CARICOM is rewriting its 10-point plan, which we understand is being expanded to include climate justice and the rights based on gender and for indigenous peoples. We have campaigns managed by the Repair Campaign, Heirs of Slavery, universities, Church of England, European individuals and institutions all over the place, who have in some of the cases become enriched from the enslavement of Africans and who want to assist, and some genuinely so, I believe, in the struggle for reparations. You have the government of Jamaica bringing an action against the king in the form of a petition. Don't clap too soon, because you haven't heard what I'm going to say about that. I might have to temper what I was going to say, since Jamaican petition have enough fans. You have the APPG petition. And just last night, I spotted a petition by a lone individual calling for an apology for a king. And one of the concerns that I have about all of this is the lack of it being joined up. And I know that's a kind of overused phrase, and you hear it in management speak, and we don't necessarily want that today. But I have real concerns about that. It's an issue. How does the African and Caribbean diaspora in the UK fit into all of these structures? The answer is we don't. Occasionally there'll be an overture, but there's no real meaningful inclusion. We'll be invited to speak. We'll be invited to join committees. We'll be invited to sign up to various things that are happening. But we're not really involved in this struggle. There's much I'll present as evidence in time to come on this. But for now, the key question for this conference is, how is reparations to be achieved? And how do we ensure that the voices of African and Caribbean heritage people are not just heard, but are at the center of this? Yes, there's the powerful Emancipation Day March, but like our cousins in the US have done, we need to identify, and they've had a measure of success, we need to identify some specific tasks and causes that we can engage in and organize ourselves in a way to do this. So recently, I have been in touch with some of you about establishing a UK-based NGO, which will have standing both locally and internationally. Reparations won't be given to us by this government or any future government. We are talking about how the law might be used, as it has been done in cases around the world later today. But the time spent criticising the initiatives of CARICOM and the AU is not well spent, in my opinion, because it is important that we all have our own initiatives. And of course, CARICOM and the AU represent governments, and reparations, whether we like it or not, is about states and how states might obtain development for people who've been left underdeveloped. But there can be layers of it. There can be layers of reparations. The state can get on and do its stuff. CARICOM, and I've had the ubiquitous 1-minute warning, so I shall shut up in a minute. CARICOM and the AU can go and do their thing, but what's to stop us from doing something? Because I've been waiting for 2 years for CARICOM to say it's okay for us to perhaps bring an application to the International Court of Justice for an advisory opinion. And it's only just taken me this time to realize that we can do it. We can do it through an NGO. Just this week, I delivered a presentation to the Bar Standards Board for their Black History Month event. And one of the speakers, very eloquent woman who talked very movingly about her childhood in Hackney and who works a lot on Windrush cases, so we were familiar to each other, said, "When there's no seat at the table, bring a folding chair." I thought that was excellent, but I go further and I say, when there's no seat at the table, create your own table. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jackie, and thank you very much again to all of the organisations here that are supporting a conference, some of them repeatedly over the past 3 years. We're really, really grateful for your support. We are now going to be moving swiftly on to the next panel, so could I please ask this panel to depart the stage and all those who are on the next panel to come up, please. Thank you.